Yo, welcome to my summer lair. I'm your host, Sammy, Tuxedo T-shirt, Yunnan. This is a rare and classy episode. We're going to discuss Vincent van Gogh. Yo! As you may know, Vincent van Gogh was a Dutch post-impressionist painter, born on March 30, 1853, and tragically passed away on July 29, 1890. It was not an easy life. However, it was a productive life, and if his life wasn't good, well, thankfully, his paintings certainly were. Van Gogh was mostly discovered after he died, and that's still true today. You are invited to the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit, which, as I speak, is happening in Toronto, Chicago, and San Francisco. I'll have links in the show notes because, unfortunately, coronavirus has interrupted the arty fun party. Boo. As the title suggests, this is immersive. Okay, traditionally, you go to an art gallery, you wander room to room, enjoying the art, murmuring slightly sarcastic comments. Right? This is a traditional art experience. You look, but you don't touch. With Immersive Van Gogh, you drive your car into this large gallery. And for 35 minutes, the paintings, Van Gogh's paintings, are digitally splashed all around you. On giant screens, on the floor, behind you, on your car. Projections are coupled with soft, subtle, ambient music. The paintings come alive. You can see the sunflowers sway in the gentle breeze. A train goes by. The stars in starry night, they twinkle with bright mischief. This isn't still life anymore. This is life and movement and a celebration of Vincent van Gogh, whose works burst with color and brightness. It's a fantastic experience. So worth putting on pants for. It's pants worthy. Oh, and about this episode. This conversation begins with art producer Corey Ross. And about 10 minutes in, we're joined by another producer, Svetlana Dvoretsky, who was having a couple of technical difficulties. Typically, I'd cut and edit Svetlana's introduction to make it sound seamless. But because it's so fun, listen to what Corey Ross says when I ask him which is his favorite Van Gogh painting. And then stay to the end when I ask the same question to Svetlana. See what her response is. Oh boy, if you thought Van Gogh was controversial. Introduce yourself. What do you do, and what is your favorite Van Gogh painting?
My favorite Van Gogh painting. Okay. So I'm Corey Ross.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the producers of Immersive Van Gogh for Lighthouse Immersive. And my favorite Van Gogh painting would have to be Starry Night.
Oh, the classic. That's a good one.
The classic, exactly. I'm not creative that way. I go for the classics, and I like the ones that are kind of a little bit later in his career over some of the ones like Potato Eaters, which look a little bit grim to me when I look at them. I like when after he really started to explore color, for instance, and texture in the painting. To me, is the more interesting stuff.
Yeah, the Van Gogh exhibition it works because you're in a car, and because the whole thing is so immersive. And it's not static. The paintings are moving, or you see a train. Sometimes they go up and down. It feels like you're actually moving. Like the car thing works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the car thing works marvelously. Now, we have two versions. We have what we call internally go by foot and go by car. So in Toronto, we built the exhibit twice in completely separate galleries side by side. So since July, we've been running walk-in Van Gogh and drive-in Van Gogh. Continuously, but the drive-in was an idea that came about because of COVID, and we wanted to provide people with a safe opportunity, and we wanted to provide a fail-safe way that we could continue to operate and keep all of our arts workers employed as well. But we really didn't know how it would work, and what we got in the end was really something quite unique because I think it enhances the experience and gives the public something that they could never get. As opposed to a lot of the drive-in experiences that have come about because of COVID. You'll go drive into a drive-in movie and watch a concert, and you're watching music through a windshield of your car, which God bless them for trying. But I think what driving Van Gogh is it actually enhances the experience. It gives you something that you never would have had without COVID, but you feel like you're floating in your car, and the projections are happening 360 degrees around your car, then down from the ceiling onto your car. If you have a white car, it shows it marvelously. It's on the car beside you, and it really gives you, as you said, a sense that you're floating through the art. And there's a point in the show where there's this movement in the way that the projection and the animation works, where every day I see everyone in their cars hit the brakes. It really gives you a sense that you're moving, and it always puts a smile on my face at that moment when I see everybody hit the brakes.
Are you like amazed or impressed, or what's the word, that people in this day and age are still connecting with Van Gogh? Like you mentioned Starry Night, that's from 1889.
Yeah. Well, I think it is amazing and impressive, and I think if Van Gogh was alive to see it, he'd be blown away. But am I amazed? I mean, the guy was just such an extraordinary talent and forward thinking and ahead of his time, and he really was turned the corner in so many ways on art, that it's not surprising to me that that he perseveres and continues. And I also think now, especially during COVID, he's kind of an interesting guy because of his real life story too. I mean, he committed suicide, he cut off his ear, he struggled with mental illness. But the struggles that he had with isolation, with mental illness, and the way that his art has overcome that and transcended that, I think is a story that people are really interested in right now. During COVID and during when the whole world is isolated and looking for something redemptive and cathartic, it seems to have found a voice in Van Gogh and in Immersive Van Gogh in our project.
And is that why that redemptive story and that timely story, is that why Van Gogh and not like Picasso or Dali or any other prominent painter?
I do think it makes Van Gogh really for this moment. I think there would be marvelous immersive exhibits to be done with many other painters, and I'm hoping that our relationship with Massimiliano Siccardi, who's the creator, the animator, and the digital artist who's created our Van Gogh exhibit, I'm looking forward to him creating many more for us. We're going to be working with him for the next decade. So there will be more, but I do think that we were very, in a way, very fortunate that the first one that we chose to do was Van Gogh. And I really do think that Van Gogh, as I said, in a really interesting way, fits in with this moment, with the zeitgeist of the situation that we're in.
So this exhibition is curated, and it's not quite chronological or linear in terms of his career, but it's like a lot like seeing like the Rolling Stones or U2, right, in concert. Everybody wants to hear the hits, but those bands have huge catalogs. And Van Gogh, in his case, he has over 900 oil paintings. So what was the curation process like? Like, how did you arrive at the flow, which paintings to show, that kind of thing?
This is a real departure from the way that you would normally think about an exhibit, where a curator sits down and tries to come up with either a theme, we were going to have a exhibit of Picasso's blue period in Toronto that unfortunately was a casualty to COVID. But it's not that a curator has sat down and thought about a theme or thought about a specific historic period. This is really a deconstruction and a reconstruction of Van Gogh's art. It's a new piece of art that Massimiliano and his musical collaborator, Luca Longobardi, sit down together and create. So the way to think about this, because it's such a new experience that most people listening, it's hard to wrap your mind around what is a projected art show. And in fact, when I first flew off to Paris to see Massimiliano's work, when I was invited to do that, I flew the whole way wondering, well, what can it be? A projected art show that 2 million people have seen. Why would they go to see this instead of just going to the Louvre? And if it hadn't been Paris, I don't know if I would have gone. But since it was Paris, I figured, well, if this sucks, I will go to the Louvre. But what I saw was mind-blowing because it's something completely new. It's a new way of encountering art, and it's an exhibit, but it meets filmmaking in a way, and it's an experience, and you're walking through a space. So what Massimiliano does, the essence of it is that he he's almost like a music DJ. He takes samples from here and moments from this, and he weaves it together and creates something new. And he does that in coordination with the architecture in the building. And that to me was really fascinating. So it's not that we're projecting on screens, we're projecting on the walls, on the brickwork, on the columns, on the archways, on the architecture, and all the surfaces within whatever building it is that we choose to do in each city. And then Massimiliano has to sit down and come up with his concept and his design so that it works with and brings to life the architecture and is informed by the architecture, and then at the same time is fascinating and quasi-narrative. I'm not telling you you're going to come in and get a true story, but you maybe get a story in the sense that you might get a story out of a Cirque du Soleil show, perhaps. But it is more a stream of consciousness. And so I asked Massimiliano, sort of, how did you come to this? And he said, I sat down, the spot where he started in conceiving this was, he said, what if we could see what Van Gogh saw in the final moments of his life? So that what flashed before his eyes as he was expiring, that moment where your life flashes before your eyes. So that's what it is. And it's a stream of consciousness, and it weaves between his pieces. We've licensed 400 different pieces of Van Gogh art from different museums around the world, the images of the pieces from different museums around the world. And then what Massimiliano has done is he's deconstructed and reconstructed this and animated it so that a piece will appear and then disappear and fade in and fade out. And there's movement within them. So birds fly by and clouds float in the sky and the stars in Starry Night twinkle and the sunflowers move in the breeze, but things mold and become one from the other. And it's, yes, there's recognizable pieces. And you're going to go in there and you're going to see potato eaters and you're going to see Starry Night and you're going to see sunflowers, of course, but also there's pieces that you're going to see, because if there's 400 of them that you're not even going to realize you saw, that as one folds into the other and becomes the next, and it's almost a kaleidoscope, and as I said, a stream of consciousness of images. It's something completely different, and it really is a piece of art that stands on its own through the sampling and the reconstruction of Van Gogh's art, and combining that with music. Luca Longobardi, who composes the music and also chooses music, some that you'll know, and then that is integrated into the show, creates a full experience, but a completely different. It's not an art exhibit in the traditional way that you'll see in a museum. This you'll see in a found space, and it's just something completely different.
Good afternoon. I believe that you have seen the drive-in, right?
Yes.
You just came back from the drive-in. Am I right? Okay. Yeah. I see. So that's and I'm sure you talked about it because it's a very passionate and really winning. Really winning moment for Corey specifically, since it was his idea that he had to convince everyone, and very good that he was able to do so. I just wanted to add one more thing to what Corey was describing. What Massimiliano and his team also really wanted to achieve is to present us with the Van Gogh as a man. Who was he as a man, as a human being? And that's what I think that that's another thing why they're different from the rest of the similar attempts on doing Van Gogh exhibits, getting into the character, getting into the mind, and trying to understand this genius.
Yeah, it makes sense what you guys are saying, because a successful artist basically has a unique point of view. They see the world in a completely different way than the way we traditionally see it, right? What makes this really cool is not just that it's immersive, but you almost get a sense of how Van Gogh saw the world based on how he painted it. Yeah,
and you see the progression, right? As I was talking about the earlier pieces, the later pieces, I mean, his vision is, what's interesting is that he started at age 29 and he painted for 7-8 years and did all this. There was this huge productivity in the period before he passed away. But there's also, you see an arc in his work. And it's interesting, in our show, Massimiliano has this moment where there's this explosion of color. I don't know if you recall it. It's about 2/3 of the way through the show. And then, and you see this explosion of color, and it's like you're kind of witnessing the aha moment that Van Gogh had. And then things really take off in this colorful and fulsome way. And that, to me, is what makes this so much different than seeing a traditional exhibit, is the way that it tells that story.
So what came first then? Was it the imagination or the innovation? Because this is a technical show as well. So you have all these paintings of Van Gogh and you have them kind of animated, but now you got to figure out how to display them and to wrap up this found space, which happened to be where the Toronto Star printing press used to be. So what came first, kind of like, was it the imagination or the innovation, or like did the tech then kind of fuel some more of the ideas, or did you have the ideas and you had to go look for the tech?
Well, all of this kind of moves along together. Massimiliano had been creating these shows in France for the last 30 years, and he started his career using just standard slide projectors with those rolling slides and running around and moving them. Images between slide projectors and moving slide projectors around. So now it's all computerized and with very high-tech projectors. So the concept of these shows with projectors was something that originated in France, and we went to Paris and saw Massimiliano's work there, which is what inspired us to invite him to create something in Toronto. But nothing can start until we find the building. And Svetlana and I spent over a year running around Toronto, looking at different buildings. This was all before COVID's. Massimiliano and his collaborators flew out multiple times to look at different buildings and say, maybe we could work with this one, maybe that one doesn't work. And finally, we landed on this former printing press room of the Toronto Star building, which is amazing because of its huge ceilings and its brickwork and its architecture and its location. So once we had fallen onto the location, that's when the real creative work on Massimiliano's part really began. And I'm sure that he had lots of ideas about what he wanted to do with Van Gogh. He had previously created a Van Gogh show in Europe, and he knew he wanted to take this in his mind to the next step creatively. But it couldn't happen without the building, and everything from there kind of moved together in unison. So from the building, we know what kind of projectors we need, how many we need. The technology then kind of falls into place at the same time as he's working away and doing creation.
So this is a bit of a tangent, but I understand how the walkthrough works, and now you've transitioned to the drive-through. But when did yoga get added to the mix?
Yoga wasn't my idea and wasn't Svetlana's idea. Yoga was one of the head of our box office has a very good friend who was a bar instructor, and then also another friend who was a yoga instructor, and they approached us and said, we really think this would be interesting. And to me, it was interesting. And it's proven to be a hit. We can't keep the tickets. Every time we announce an extra block of tickets of yoga, it goes completely. So I'm really pleased, and it was just another way for people to interact with the art. At first, Massimiliano was a little bit taken aback. He said, "What, you're turning my exhibit that I want people to really enjoy and watch carefully, you're turning it into an exercise club." But it's not like that. It's yoga, and it's meditative, and it's really, I think it really just illuminates the yoga in a new way, and it's, as I said, just another way for folks to interact with the art. And bring it into their lives, and I think that's important, especially now.
But we actually, and I apologize for my internet. I guess, Corey, I got that disease from your internet. Mm-hmm. Now you sound perfect, and I can't get the straight line. But there's a few other things that we are developing in the venue, and I don't know if you had a chance, because I've been on and off, you had a chance to talk about the Illusionarium that's happening upstairs. Mm-hmm. And
no, we haven't
another workshop. Okay. So, but on the yoga side, and approximately the same time, we've introduced the flower masterclass, which, to my knowledge, hasn't been presented anywhere but in our space. And we had a master florist who has been teaching how to create the flower arrangements based on Van Gogh arrangements. And that was very successful. And now we're also developing a few other projects related to the live performance with the opera singers, with the dancers, and the technology together. That's also going to be a completely new and cutting edge content that we're going to introduce in the spring, and a few other things. So that's really kind of a very creative platform for us, and we're also very happy that other artists can come and create, and we can help them to do so and inspire them to do so.
Yeah, the goal is to really create here in Toronto, in the Toronto Star Building, a center for immersive arts experiences. So we have phenomenal amount of space there because it really was so big where the printing press was. We have 63,000 square feet.
Wow.
And we've divided it into 3 galleries, which we creatively have called Gallery 1, Gallery 2, and Gallery 3. Hopefully we'll come up with better names down the road. But Gallery 1 right now is Walk-in Van Gogh, and that really is truly the most high-tech projection venue in Canada. And we'll continue to create new content and work with different creators, including Massimiliano, to develop new shows for in that space. And then Gallery 2, which is where you saw the drive-in Van Gogh, is a space where we can turn over and have more temporary shows. It's been drive-in for the last 8 months, thanks to COVID, but we had and have lots of plans to add new things in there. And then Gallery 3, which is it's upstairs in the Toronto Star Building. It's up a floor. So it's a lot of space, but it's slightly lower ceilings. In that space is where we're launching Illusionarium. And Illusionarium is the world's first immersive magic show. And it's an exhibit that tells us the history of magic from Houdini right through the modern era of television magicians like Penn and Teller. And in each room of this exhibit, there'll be an experience with holograms and video and surround and surround projections that tell, and recreate illusions of some of the greatest magicians in the history of magic. And then we also have live magicians who will demonstrate some of these illusions. And so that's the latest and newest thing that we're going to be launching shortly. And
one of the magicians is Jamie Allen.
Yeah, so Jamie Allen is Jamie Allen's a magician that I've been working with for a few years, presenting his shows.
He's fantastic
in different cities around the world. Yeah, he's fabulous, and his main thing in his own performance is the integration of high tech into magic. So he'll do illusions that appear on your iPhone, for instance, in his show, and that made him the perfect person to look at how we could use technology to create this experiential, immersive magic show of the future.
So Svetlana, would you say then, is there a minimum age then for, can people bring kids? Would kids get into this? Would they learn? Or should somebody be a little bit older?
You're talking about the Illusionarium?
Well, no, I was talking about the Van Gogh, but if you want to also answer the Illusionarium, because it's magic. I think magic's for any age, but specifically for the Van Gogh, is it something that kids, people should bring kids to, or should they be a little older? What do you suggest?
Absolutely. And we also, when we're talking about the adults, or let's say the people who already have been to museums or understand art or learning art or have an opinion on art, we never say that our exhibit is replacing, but by no means replacing to actually going to the museum and looking at the real objects. That's just a new way of encountering art, and I know Corey already mentioned that. But when we're talking about kids, little kids, we definitely believe that this is a perfect segue for them to dive into the world of art, serious art. It's emotional, it's more understandable, it's It's more entertaining in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a very different reactions from similarly kids and adults, because the experience is so sensoric that if you feel free, if you're kind of a free spiritual person, you start showing your emotions. We've seen a lot of people, and specifically kids, who are dancing there, or who are laughing, or moving, or running. Like, I mean, it gets into you, and especially um, if you're a kid and you don't really understand what all of this means, it's so beautiful and it's so emotional that, like I said, it would be a perfect start for any little child to get to know who Van Gogh is.
Corey, I want to ask you a specific question. Your company created the Art of Banksy exhibit. That was also in Toronto.
Yes.
Did that experience teach you anything that you applied here? It wasn't quite as immersive, obviously, but you had a number of Banksy rooms and a lot of the art everywhere, and it was an unusual exhibition because it wasn't in a traditional art gallery. So did you learn anything from that experience that you're applying here to Van Gogh?
Oh, absolutely. That was our first experience doing an experiential exhibit. My company comes from theater and concerts, but mostly we've been presenting and producing theater shows over the years. And I started to see that this area of experiential and sort of pop-up art experiences was really taking off for producers in Europe, and hadn't taken off in Toronto or really much in North America. And I thought that we were really missing out on things that I was seeing that were interesting in Europe that just didn't fit in with the mandate, or even maybe the physical space of the two main museums in town, the Art Gallery of Ontario and the Royal Ontario Museum. And I had been off to Amsterdam a few summers ago, and while I was there, I saw the Banksy exhibit that was going on in Amsterdam. So as a producer, there was a huge learning curve in putting on one of these shows, just learning what it takes to turn a old warehouse space that's industrial into a space that you can legally have the public in, fire alarms, washrooms, how smooth is the floor so that no one's stiletto heel gets caught on it and they get stuck by the heel in the middle of a fire. Seemed to be a big concern. So the physical producing and getting it done and staffing and security was a big learning curve in Van Gogh. In Banksy. All of that we learned and then applied. We learned on Banksy and applied on Van Gogh. But I think the bigger and possibly more interesting thing was just to see how the public, and really our public isn't necessarily the traditional art gallery public. We were able to attract a whole new public. We're at least 50% of our public is in their 20s and 30s, a whole new public to art, and to see how they experience the art and the show in a physical way as they move through the space. And for me as a producer, that's always what's brought me to this. What's fascinated me is that moment where the audience meets the artist, and you get this warm feeling because we're the ones that brought it together. But this is a completely new way. It's completely different than seeing a musical theater piece and you're sitting in your chair in the theater, and the public's reaction and the warmth and excitement that they get from these experiences is very rewarding, and that's what we learned on Banksy, and certainly that spirit carried us forward into Van Gogh.
So I have a question for both of you as we close, and I'll start with you, Svetlana. Corey was just talking about the experiences and the way that the people were experiencing art, and one of the main ways that people experience art nowadays is through Instagram, right? We've become a very visual culture. So when you're putting on these like kind of large scale things like the Illusionarium or the Van Gogh exhibition, are you at all influenced or aware of Instagram and like that these will provide Instagram moments for people? Does it have any effect at all on the work that you guys do?
Well, I mean, we don't choose the content because we wanted to support Instagram. I think it's vice versa. The content that we have is so beautiful and so visual that people who live and breathe by Instagram, and we totally realize that it's a huge percentage of the population, they make Instagram richer because of our content. So of course we advertise there. We're very heavy in social media, and we understand and appreciate the value of having a great picture online. And we welcome everyone who wants to tag us and take a picture and put our visuals on social media. But like I said, we create the content first, and then it's transferred to Instagram. Like, we don't keep Instagram in mind when we create the content.
Yeah, and I think it's an important note, because when I said we were inspired by the kinds of things that were happening in exhibit and experiential art in Europe, we weren't, as much as I am amazed by the concept, inspired by the Instagram museums that have propped up and come out of California.
Exactly.
There are producers who are creating content specifically to give people something to do on Instagram, and all the power to them. I personally find it a little boring. We certainly are curating content that people are putting on Instagram, but I think that the art transcends that, and stands on its own, and is as you just experienced this afternoon, very powerful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
We've been asked on several occasions, on many occasions actually, why we don't transcribe our exhibit in digital format. And even though we had some considerations, I think we decided completely against it, because the emotional outcome, or any type of outcome you would have by coming in and having the impact of the space and being in there, being present, is not even going to be remotely compared to what you see digitally. And also, what the other thing that we do say, that for anyone who is experiencing drive-in, and right now is the only way how you can experience it, we also say that we're giving you 50% of experience. And that's why everyone who's got the drive-in ticket, they're invited to come into the walk-in when it's possible, because nothing can be compared like when you being present.
Yeah, it's like when you listen to a live recording of from one of your favorite bands. If it's a live show, it sounds good and might be a really interesting arrangement of the song or whatever it may be. But if you were there and you were at that concert and you got to hear that live, it has a deeper, richer meaning and a different experience for you, rather than if you just like found it online or something.
Absolutely.
So where can people find tickets and they're like, all right, this sounds really cool, I want to go hang out with Van Gogh? Where can people go to hang out with Van Gogh?
Well, I know that you have listeners all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're coming in Toronto, you go to vangoghexhibit.ca, and Illusionarium is illusionarium.ca. But if you happen to be in Chicago, it's vangoghchicago.com, and we'll open there in February. And if you're in San Francisco, we're opening there in March with vangoghsf.com. There you go, all the details.
All the details. Are you hoping to have more Canadian cities as well?
We'll see. We have to follow where people are interested and excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
And could be more Canadian cities. Hopefully, there'll be more American cities, and maybe even further afield. We might even take the European concept back to Europe.
Oh wow! Okay, worldwide tour.
We also have a website called Lighthouse Immersive, which just been enabled about a week ago. So we keep forgetting about it, but that's the name of our company. And that, I believe, should have all the content and geography that Corey just explained.
Svetlana, I asked Corey at the beginning just to introduce himself, like explain who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And his favorite Van Gogh painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you the same.
Sure. My name is Svetlana Dvoretsky, and I am a founder and producer of the company that I've created 16 years ago. It's called Show One Productions. And the company mainly focusing on presenting the international artists in the area of classical music, dance, opera singers, ballet, and international theater productions. And we've done several shows together with Corey throughout the years. And Immersive Van Gogh, we've co-found and producing together. My favorite Van Gogh painting. What a very good question. Very, very, very good question.
Corey went with the classic Starry Night, which is a good one, obviously. That's like a
course.
That's a top 10 hit.
Of course. It's not Starry Night for me. I am actually right now debating between Potato Eaters and the Self-Portrait.
Okay.
But I think right now, as we speak, it will be Potato Eaters. It might change tomorrow, but it's very interesting that so many interviews that we've done so far, no one ever asked that question. It's very interesting.
Thank you guys.
Made me think. Yeah.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for putting on the exhibition as well.
Sir, I'm really smiling because I said I like Starry Night and I like it so much better than Potato Eaters.
I didn't bring that up. I just let that part go. I'll let you guys sort it out.
All right, thanks, Sammy. It was great to chat with you.
Yeah, but you see, that's why we have a ballot.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Sammy. Ciao.
Yo, thank you to the team at Lighthouse Immersive for hanging out and getting all classy with me. I am Sammy Yunan. Immersive Van Gogh exhibit is a special experience and worth attending. Do check out the sites for Toronto, Chicago, and San Francisco, or perhaps additional cities for dates, times, and prices. As Van Gogh said in a Doctor Who episode, well, look around. Art. You know, it seems to me there's so much more to the world than the average eye allowed to see. I believe if you look hard, there are more wonders in this universe than you could have ever dreamed of. Yes! Look around. I believe one of the unusual aspects of the exhibition is that an artist, a successful artist, is defined by the way that he sees the world. So the best thing about this atypical exhibition is that it is immersive. By being in a car, it represents a movement, a motion. You don't feel static. Sometimes when you're in an art gallery, it can feel static. You just stand there. This is a radical engagement with the work and life of Vincent van Gogh. You're basically going to cannonball into his artwork. If you'd like to radically engage with me, I am on social media, My Pal Sammy for all three. My Pal Sammy for IG, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you so much for listening to me in a Netflix world. Van Gogh, yo.